Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Shorty September, another BookTube event. This one dealing with really short works, fewer than 225, 250 pages, something like that. Uh, in a way to spread the love to those little things on your shelves, but also a fringe benefit will be, boy oh boy, will it boost your reading stats for the month, because these things are tiny. And I don't need my reading stats boosted for the month. Thank you very kindly. Working in 500, 600, and 1,000 page books, my reading stats still blow any other reading stats of a human being out of the water on any month, on any year. I don't need the stats improved, but a lot of times these tiny little things get neglected. They sit on my shelves because I love gigantic fat books. I love them. I read very fast, and I spend a lot of hours every day reading. The hours aren't so important because a lot of you spend hours. You carve out hours. You're my heroes because you do it when you've got all sorts of other things clamoring for your time. But it's the reading speed, really, because I read so fast that a normal length book, 250, 315 pages, something in that range, I'm going to be in and out of it like crap through a goose. I'm going to be in and out of it like a shot. I'm not going to get, usually, the feeling that so many people have reported and that I have experienced of living inside a book, of wrapping yourself in its world. I'm not going to get that unless the book is much longer than that. And with longer books than that, I do get that feeling sometimes. And like anybody, I am in this for the feelings. So sometimes the little books on my shelves go ignored over long periods of time. So I'm using Shorty September to go to those. I'm not hunting out anything. I'm going either on my Kindle or on the shelves. I'm going to those shorter things and rereading them. And I want to do more Shorty. I don't always add one of these things to my night's reading. Sometimes I'm killing two birds with one stone. Like last night's reading, I read this. This is a one single Conan story. It's this paperback is 180 pages, but the story itself is no more than 80 pages. All the rest of it is illustrations and follow-up essays. So, sometimes I'm killing two birds with one stone, but I want to add to Shorty September as well on my night's reading. And last night I reread something that I have not read in too long a time. A tiny little thing, 80 pages. This is One Boy's Boston by the great historian Samuel Eliot Morison, who grew up as a Brahmin on Boston's Beacon Hill, and this is the story of his childhood. So his birth in the 19th century all the way to him being boxed up and carted away to boys' school as a teenager. He wrote this in a long, long time later, a whole lifetime later, decades and decades later. So it glows with the warmth of nostalgia, and also isn't particularly meticulous about accuracy, even though this historian prided himself on his memory, and his memory was excellent. I'd be willing to bet that most of the little incidents in here are tiny little Samuel really did happen very close to the way they're described. And the point of this is to relay a Boston that in the 1960s was either fading or vanished completely. A Gilded Age Boston that where this author grew up, but that he had watched vanish. You've got the swan boats on the cover there, and the back cover is our author as a tiny little boy. as a tiny little boy. That boy walking and running around this Boston. This is the Boston of the 1960s, but the Boston that he ran around in as a boy, as an urchin, large parts of it would be unrecognizable today. But I am sure that he ran up and down the street, the long, long bicycle spoke of a street that now has a median mall where pedestrians can walk up the whole length of it and look at statues of notable Bostonians. It's a spike that extends out from the public garden, which is also full of statues of famous people. And I'm pretty sure that boy had no idea that you could walk up that street today and see a statue of himself. I don't think he had any idea that would ever happen. And yet, it is true. And you can also walk around Boston's Beacon Hill and parts south and see buildings where he lived, where his friends and relatives lived, were the great old whiskered gray eminences of his youth, great intellectuals and abolitionists at the time of his youth, were slowly growing old and creeping closer and closer to the fireplace on cold winter nights. This paperback, or this hardcover, includes pictures of some of those people. There's one that always strikes me. Yes, look at that. These are the Elliott sisters. 130 years ago, when they had their whole lives in front of them and thought that nothing was more important than the particular set of one hat. Yes, there we go. This is Samuel Eliot in 1898 in his library, with the statues and the framed paintings and the books everywhere, and the writing desk, and the little shelf of reference works that you needed if you wrote for a living. Forever and ever, you needed that little shelf of reference works. It didn't have to be on your desk, but it had to be nearby. Couldn't be getting up for it. It had to be nearby. A really good mythological dictionary, a really good etymological dictionary, a really good biographical dictionary, a couple of quotation books, Bartlett's or whatever. Those had to be there. They had to be within reach of your writing desk. And you can look at archival pictures in museums of all kinds of different studies and libraries and writing rooms, and there'll be different arrangements left, right, and center, but they all have that. They all have that. And mine did too, for decades. My own writing nook, my various writing nooks in various places had that too. It never in a million years occurred to me that would all be on this, on a slate of plastic and glass. Never in a million years. Never in a million years did I think, for instance, at the Brattle Bookshop here in Boston, they have a sale lot outdoors, bargain books for $3, that are on their last legs before they get thrown away. Routinely, I will look out there and I will see giant, great works of literature. The 4th edition of the American Heritage Dictionary, the Chambers Biographical Dictionary, Fletcher's book on art and architecture. I'll see those reference works just sitting out there. No one wants them. Why would anyone want them? They're all online. There's scholarship in those books that isn't online, but who's going to parse them for that? Dictionaries? Long gone. Thesauruses? Long gone. But you needed that then. And the pictures are charming here, but the real charming thing is that Morrison is writing this from the vantage point of a man who can feel old age. He can feel his old age coming. He's older than Eliot was in that picture when he writes this book. Has, I think, a decade left to live, and can feel it, and knows that, that the Boston that he knew is already gone. So like everybody, this is a tiny little thing. Like everybody who reads this, I wish it were 10 times longer. But I can't fault I can't fault Morrison for his productivity. Because he wrote a lot. but this, I have a lot of his stuff, but this remains one of the most charming things to me that he ever wrote. There's one other book of his that would also qualify for Shorty September. I may get to that in the course of the month. Another short thing that is absolutely lovely. But not like this. This is a historian. This is a historian looking at his autobiography through the lens of it actually being history, which is not something that most people get to do. I love it. I loved rereading it last night. So I'm going to try and do another Shorty September tonight and add it on. It's not much to add on to the night's reading. If I do, I'll report back tomorrow. Thank you, BookTube.